Hi, thanks for watching. Just a little plea before I start. If you're enjoying these revision videos, please do subscribe to the channel because then I can see that I'm reaching people and that I'm not just screaming into the void. Okay, so this one isn't going to be completely specific to A-level RS, although I am going to mention aspects of A-level RS in it. But what this video is, this is generally about how to plan your revision. Because, I mean, I'm making this video middle of April, so we're about 4 weeks out from study leave, probably for most people. And if you haven't started thinking about your revision already, it's absolutely not too late, but you do need to get on it pretty soon to get the best out of your time. So I'm going to hopefully go through some tips that will help you to do that and will help you to make your revision more effective and ideally less of a drag as well. So here we go. Right, a little bit of real talk. Think about how you can make your A-levels or your GCSEs or whatever exams it is you're preparing for. How can you make them a priority? So there may be parties and social events. Do you need to go to all of them? Could you cut down how much paid work you're doing? Could you pause or reduce some of your other activities? Not forever, just for now. So what I'm talking about here is short-term pain for long-term gain. Most people only really get one shot at their A-levels. Obviously, there's things like resits, there's, you can take a year out and do them again, but a lot of people don't want to do that. They want to move on with their lives. So if this is your one shot, how can you make sure that you're giving it the best that you possibly can? Of course you need some downtime. Of course you need things other than revision in your life. I'm not saying that you don't. I'm just saying, are there things that you could park for a bit in order to prioritise getting ready for your exams? So that's for you to think about. Okay, planning is really the way forward with this. So there's quite a few ways to plan, but a good kind of go-to strategy would be to get a blank revision timetable. Now you can make your own. There are loads online that you can download. It's quite likely that school can sort you out with one. A good way to start is block out things that you know that are commitments. So if you're going on holiday between now and the exams, put that in. Any school commitments, family commitments, regular activities that you know you're going to keep on doing, put them in. Then block out some time for rest and exercise and social time because you need all of those things. Then look at what you've got left and split it between the subjects that you need to revise for. Now, if you're doing 3 subjects, you might want to make that a 3-way equal split, but you might not. So for example, if you're doing maybe some coursework subjects and your coursework's already in, and you haven't got so many exams in that subject, maybe you don't need quite so much revision time. This is going to be different for different people. If you're doing GCSEs and you've got lots of subjects, then you need to split it between all of those, but again, maybe give some more than others. Then once you've done that, you're going to look at that time for each subject and you're going to divide it into chunks. Now you can decide the length of the chunks and they don't all need to be the same length. Some can be longer, some can be shorter. It depends what works in each subject. Now, if you're watching my videos, then you're probably doing RS. If you're doing A-level RS, we know that for AQA, we work in kind of slots of 10 marks, 15 marks, 25 marks. If we turn that into minutes, that's 18 minutes, 27 minutes, 45 minutes. Maybe those can be your chunks. It's up to you, see what works for you. Now again, this is quite RS specific, but what I've put here is some examples of how you can chunk your time. So maybe one day you've got a lot on, you've only got 10, 15, 20 minutes for revision. That's okay because you can still get something good out of that time. So 10 minutes, you could plan a 10 marker in that time, or you could do a bit of a multiple choice retrieval quiz. There's lots online. There are Kahoots, there are Blockets, all sorts of things you can find. Your teachers might have supplied you with some as well. 15 minutes, you could watch one of my videos and then summarise it. 20 minutes, you could plan a 15 marker, or remember 20 minutes, if you don't have extra time, is actually long enough to write a 10 marker. So that could be one that you've previously planned, you write it in full. So I'm not going to read all of this to you, but this is just some examples of how you can use each of these lengths of time. I probably wouldn't try and do more than about 45 minutes at once, because your brain will shut down. You'll need a break by that point. So, this is why when you're training for a marathon, you don't train for a marathon by running loads of marathons. You do it in chunks. It's just like, for a 3-hour exam, you don't try and revise 3 hours at a stretch. What you're trying to do is you're training your brain to get ready to do the 3 hours. Quite often people are not sure where to start. Revision can feel overwhelming and they just don't know what to do. So a good place of where to start is this strategy that you've probably heard of before, which is RAG, red, amber, green, traffic lights. So get a copy of the spec for each of your subjects. This will be online. If you can't find it online, or if you're not quite sure which one it is, your teachers will be able to sort you out. So what you're then going to do is get 3 colours, red, amber and green, and you're going to rate each bit of the content according to how well you know it. So green is, I'm confident that I know this, I only need to look at it occasionally. Amber, I can remember this, but I need to revisit it regularly because I'm not quite confident with it yet. Red, I don't know a lot about it. Now the key is, don't just do this once. Do it every week or every 2 weeks, and what should happen as you're revising is you should start to see the reds disappear and you should start to get more ambers, and then towards the end, hopefully lots more greens. Accountability. So again, you've got to be a little bit real with yourself here. If you are someone who is very distracted by things like your phone, you just need to take that distraction away. So put it in another room. You can get those sort of lock boxes for them. That might be a bit extreme, but if that's you, consider it. Time your revision sessions using a stopwatch or some other timer that's not on your phone. If you have your phone next to you and you tell yourself that it's because you're timing yourself, then all you're doing is you're just putting a distraction right next to yourself. So it's best not to do that. Now, this won't work for everyone, but a lot of people find this is actually quite a nice thing to do. At the end of each revision session, get a post-it note and write on it what you achieved. So it could be, I got more confident with these key terms, I wrote this essay, I completed this quiz, and then keep the notes. Maybe build them up on a wall or like a space near your desk. It will give you a sense of achievement. It will show you that you are working. And when you're revising, when you're working hard, have little rewards. So it could be, you complete a certain amount of revision and then you meet up with your friends, or it could be some sort of other treat. But you shouldn't give yourself the reward if you haven't worked for it. That sounds a bit harsh, but it just can be really, really easy to kid yourself that you've worked and actually you haven't. So just be really, really honest with yourself. Keep checking in with yourself about, are you being accountable? So what's good revision? What really works? And this is all backed up with lots and lots of research and evidence on how we learn. So absolutely top of the list is retrieval. This is pulling stuff out of your brain. So this is when you're retrieving things like key terms, definitions, quotes that you've done, and they'll be somewhere locked in your brain, but they don't quite come instantly when you call them. You want to get to a point where they do come instantly where you call them, because they're in your long-term memory and you can pull them out. So quizzes, flashcards, really good for this. I'll say more about flashcards later, because they're a bit of a double-edged sword. They can be great, but they can be a bit of a waste of time. Relearning this is kind of what a lot of people think revision is all about. And it is about this, but it's not all about it. So this is where you refamiliarize yourself with chunks of the content, broader aspects of the content. So making mind maps are really good ways of doing this. Going through these videos and podcasts are good, but that can't be the only thing you do. So I was talking to someone recently who made a mind map and then folded it up and put it away in a folder. That's absolutely no good, because you need to be looking at it again and again and again. You need to be putting it somewhere obvious. You need to be revisiting it. You need to be linking it to other things. So you need to connect your revision together. Don't do revision and then put it away. It needs to be kind of bringing it to the front of your mind all the time. People often forget this one, which kind of blows my mind. Practicing your skills. A massive part of revision needs to be doing what you would actually have to do in the exam. Plan essays, write essays, do practice questions. You have to do lots of that. And then asking for help and getting feedback. You can involve people around you, teachers, friends where appropriate, but sometimes friends can be they can do a little bit more harm than good. So think about, are your friends actually going to help you, or are they going to stress you out more? Right, what's not good revision? What's poor revision? If you're being very passive, you're probably not revising. So sitting with a book open and you're looking at it, sitting with a laptop open and you're scanning it, that's not really revision. Neither is watching a video or listening to a podcast, if that's all you do. If you don't do anything with it, it's probably going to be a very limited use. Rereading, I would say this works 5 minutes before the exam. But as a long-term strategy, not so much. Rereading, it's very easy to kid yourself doing this into thinking that you know more than you do. Same with copying out notes. Writing things out more times isn't going to help you understand them if you don't understand them already. That's a bit of a no-brainer. And then revising things you don't need to revise. It can be very, very tempting to go over easy stuff and think, oh yeah, I've done loads of revision, rather than engaging with what you find hard. Revision is supposed to be hard, but you can do hard things. And then the other one, this is a bit of a killer, disguising non-revision as revision. So you might meet up with your friends or be on like a group chat and kid yourself that you're studying, but actually you're not. You might have a video on, maybe one of mine or a different revision video, but if you're scrolling through TikTok at the same time, then that's not useful revision. Okay, so again, you've got to check in with yourself, you've got to be honest. Are you doing the right things? Okay, so here's a few strategies for how to turn bad strategies into good ones. So instead of just watching a video, pause it, write things down, add to an essay plan, or watch the whole thing through and then make a summary at the end. Keep that summary, keep going back to it, stick it on the wall, stick it on the fridge, do something with it. Instead of just rereading, work backwards from the idea of an essay. Decide on an essay you want to write, read what you're going to need to do it. As you read, make a plan, then write the essay. And instead of copying out notes and making just kind of like a basic mind map, look at a section, then cover it up, then make a mind map or some other notes based on what you can remember. So you're not just copying, you're actually retrieving. Look back, add to the map, look back, add to the map. Then, when you're done, put the mind map up on a wall where you can look at it regularly, because then your brain is revisiting it. And then flashcards. Lots of people make beautiful sets of flashcards and they spend ages and then they don't use them effectively. My advice would be make them really quickly. They don't need to be beautiful. No one's ever going to see them except you. There's something called the lightness system, which you can Google to learn about what that's about, to make sure you're prioritising the right bits of knowledge. I would look into this because it's essentially making sure that you know or rather that you're using flashcards to actually revise what you need rather than what you already know. Final points, blockers to revision. So these are quite often things that people tell me why they can't revise, why they just can't motivate themselves, why they're really struggling. So I want to give you some possible solutions. So the most common one is actually just not knowing where to start because you feel overwhelmed. It feels like there's no point because nothing you do is ever going to be good enough. Just start somewhere. Just even if you do 10 minutes, that is a start. And then you can work to 15, and then you can do to 20, and then you can push on from there. Even a little bit like that will make a difference in your brain, in your long-term memory. You can't feel it, but it's happening. If you haven't got a good space to work, you can't concentrate, get your family on board, get support to set up a quiet space at home. Consider maybe working at school, working in your local library, finding another quiet space local to you. If you can make that happen, that will make a huge difference. Feeling like you can't fit revision in around everything else you have going on in your life. You can't do everything, that's true, but think about what you could park temporarily. Not forever, just for a few weeks. Another block can be that you don't know if what you're doing is having any effect. This is where you need to get your teachers involved. Send them your work to look at, show them what you've been revising, keep testing yourself, get extra feedback. That will reassure you, that will build your confidence. And then finally, just finding revision really boring, getting really easily distracted. I have sympathy, but you do have to just push through it. Set a timer. So it can start with 10 minutes. It can even start with less than that if you're really, really struggling. So give yourself a time where you will only work. So do what you have to do to make sure that you can do that. So remove distractions, use website blockers if you need to, put your phone in the other room, do what you've got to do to get started. Once you get started, it won't be so bad. All right, I hope that's been really helpful. Revision's hard. It should be hard. It's okay that it's hard, and you can do it. You can do hard things. Okay? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.